Hey, everybody. Do you know how many minutes? I said, what did I say? Did I say 14:45? Here it is, it's almost 3 o'clock. Well, the truth is, this is Simoson, and anything happens here, so you're gonna have to bear with me. Don't they have a filter for can't you do a filter that gives you dark hair? Huh? Must it be gray? Must it? Somebody please tell me in the comments. All right, guys, let's get this show on the road. What I need you to do is tell me in no uncertain terms if I'm loud and clear. That's what I need to know. If you can tell me that, then we're all... This can't be right, man. There's got to be something we can do about this here. Well, age sort of creeps up on everybody. You're late, I am, I know. Cousin, tell me please in the comments if I'm loud and clear, and if I am, please say it in the comments. That really helps me. It gives me sort of, it gives me some bearings. It sort of tells me where we are and what I need to adjust. Loud and clear, thank you. People press unblock button and you reach. Oh no, I love the block button. I love it. I don't think I would ever function without the block button. I use it regularly and very, very often. I do. Because, you know, you don't want that well, you can't get everybody. This is the thing about the block button. You cannot eliminate everybody, but the ones you do see, eliminate them. Because they just bring negative energy to your page. And not to say that everybody has to agree with you, but there is a level of insolence I simply do not tolerate. There's a level that it crosses the threshold for me, and I'm off the boat, and you lose me when you do that. Constructive criticism is good. It's helped me on many occasions, but not insolence, not insulting for the sake of insulting. Those we get rid of. Guys, do me a favor, please, if you jump on this live, could you please share this live with people that you think would be interested in this conversation so that we can sit down, and a couple of things I want to share with you, things that I think will sort of give you a clearer picture of the life that I live here at Simoson Building. And I can only pull back the curtain and give you a glimpse of into the life I live. It would be unrealistic for me to give you the full picture, because you can only gain a full sense of the way I live if you live the way I live. But as long as you're sitting and you're watching from the periphery, you'll never fully understand me, and I don't expect you to. Let's be clear. I don't expect you to understand everything that I do and everything that I say. You know why? Because you're not me. You're not me, and I'm not you. So let's begin. As many of you know, I went through, how long was that? That might have been 8 months. 8 months of going through something that I've been through before, and I'll explain what I mean by that. But in order for you to gain a clear understanding, let me just go to the very, very beginning, because if I don't explain the beginning, you will not understand the middle, and you will not understand the end. And this is the reason I get amused when people say, well, just get to the point. Well, you can't get to the point, because every story has 3 parts. It's got a beginning, a middle, and end. You can't start with the middle. You can't start with the end, because you want to understand the beginning. Okay, so I'm just going to go through it sequentially. Do you know that word, sequentially? By the way, what do you think of my tie? Tell me honestly. Does the tie go with the shirt? Let's be clear. So let's go back all the way to the beginning. Many of you may know the history of Simoson. Simoson Building has been here since 1987. This building was built in 1986. but it was opened in August of 1987. Now, 1987, in those days, in the 80s, when you said to anyone, let's say, for instance, you were standing on Cairo Road, which is literally 2 roads away from here. But in the 80s, when you said to someone you were going to Simoson, it was like saying you were going to the industrial area. It just seemed like a far off land, and it was just so far away from the main activity of the CBD on Cairo Road. That's just how far-flung it seemed in the 80s. Today, in 2024, where I sit today, Simoson is at the epicenter of the central business district. Where we sit here is a spot that is extremely populated, highly populated, politically charged. It's a doozy, as they say in English. So because we are where we are, we deal with a lot of characters. And I recently learned, because, for years I used to think that, we were part of a community, and the community, the business community, is supposed to sort of hold hands and love each other and sort of have the same goal. Well, I got a rude awakening not too long ago when we had a fire here at Simoson. One of the shops left a tool, an electronic tool. They left it on in their shop, and the shop burnt. And this was at a time when Tarsila Lungu and I were in court. And as you know, on social media, they came up with all types of different conspiracy theories. Some people were accusing Tarsila of trying to sabotage Simoson, which wasn't the case. Tarsila Lungu had nothing to do with the fire at Simoson building. We very quickly got on top of it. The fire people, the fire brigade team, they came through, they extinguished the fire, and they very quickly ascertained and they determined what the cause of the fire was. It was a tool, an electrical tool that had been left on by one of the tenants here at Simoson, which ultimately resulted in the shop burning, and it almost burnt part of the building. But thankfully they swung into action and that was sorted out. But the reason I brought that up is because I remember when the building was when it was burning, there were some people, bystanders downstairs, watching from the road as the building was burning. And I remember, and tell me in the comments if you remember this. Tell me in the comments if you remember this. I remember then these are people, these are street vendors, these are bystanders, these are people that were on the street while someone was recording the building. And I remember the comments that those people were making. They were saying, "Hey, chichitambala building chakwa chipie, lakini chipie fie." So building chipie fie. Basically what they were saying was that yes, his building should burn because he's full of himself, blah, 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 which in my opinion is completely wrong. It's just a perception that they have of me that is incorrect. And I realized in that moment when I watched that video that there is no such thing as cohesiveness. There is no such thing as a community that sort of gels together with one goal. And the reason for that is because we have different goals. Okay, I desire a community that functions. Unfortunately, the vast majority of the people that are found in this area do not desire the same thing. This is the reason I'm constantly at loggerheads with people when it comes to the functionality of a road, the functionality of the street. I believe that when a street is clear and open, people get to where they're going quicker. Commercial activity takes place more vigorously. Okay, money exchanges quicker. I believe that. But if you block a street unnecessarily, it means you are impeding progress. That's what that means. It means you are delaying people to get to where they need to be. They will make payments slower. I believe that. But, unfortunately, we live in an environment where none of those things are important. None of those things are valued. And because of that, it comes across as if I am bougie or uppity or someone that does not consider the plight of the poor. This is what they say of me, okay? They somehow view me as someone that is privileged, that's full of himself. All of these perceptions that they have of me, totally incorrect, simply because we are on two different wavelengths. They think differently from I do. I think differently from the way they do. So because of that, there's this friction, this tension. So anyway, not too long ago, we still do to a degree, not as much now, but it did happen very, very often and very annoyingly often. There was a situation where, you know, these buses, they would always park in front of Simoson Gate. I mean, literally, they would just block my gate. You couldn't exit if you wanted to. You couldn't leave the building when you wanted. You know, it was always when you're trying to leave the building. And you know, the bus drivers in this area, what they do is that they'll just leave the bus and just go off somewhere. They'll go drinking or they'll go smoking or something. And it was always a struggle. It was always one of those deals where you'd have to ask someone to go look for the driver. Sometimes the driver would be gone 15, 20 minutes. And then he would come over, you know, half drunk or smoking a cigarette and would say things like, "Oh, boss, sorry, na chofia pa, na chira sundo kunumoku, oh, na chira shita kabwa woku kunumoku, sorry," you know. The bus drivers would say, "No, sorry, Simon, I was just buying a cigarette by the corner. I was going to the toilet. I was buying a bottle of alcohol." And we would always get into a huge argument about this. And I've been going through this for years. For years I've been going through this. So this one particular evening, this fella, whoever he was, he parked right in front of the gate, and I was rushing home. I wanted to get home, nowhere to be seen. So what I did was, I asked the guard, I said, "Deflate his tires. Remove the air from his tires so that he knows never to do this again." The guard did that. He removed the air from the tires using the little valve, okay? So we deflated both the tires on one side, on the left side. So the very next day, the owner of the bus, who was not there, by the way, the only people that were present were the bus conductor and the bus driver. So the owner of the bus came to my office the following day and says, "Simon, you deflated my tires." I said, "You better believe I did." And I went into this thing. I said, "Well, you know, your drivers, they need to understand that, you know, they can't block the gate and impede our ability to sort of exit. I should be able to leave the building anytime I want. You know, I shouldn't be subjected to this thing where I need your permission as a bus driver. Oh, excuse me, Mr. Bus Driver, please remove your bus." I shouldn't be subjected to that. So the owner of the bus says, "Yeah, but why did you deflate my tires?" I said, "Because I was trying to get home." So he says, "Well, you've damaged my tires." I said, "What do you mean?" I said, "I deflated them." He said, "Yeah, you deflated." So I realized very quickly we were speaking two different languages. Deflated to him was different from what I was saying. He says, no, you took a knife and you punctured my tires." I said, no, you're misunderstanding it. I deflated them. I didn't puncture them. In that very moment, because I know the guys here, I realized what was happening. The bus driver and the bus conductor decided to make a bit of money based on what I had done to the bus. They deduced, since mwewa has deflated the tires, let's puncture them and then make him pay for 2 brand new tires. Now, I've been through cases here where people falsely accuse me, especially, people like bus drivers, the guys that sell the slacks. I remember a few years ago, a guy accused me of assault. I didn't assault him. I did push him, but I didn't assault him. He went and got some medical report that said that his ribs were aching and, he was bleeding and all that, which I didn't understand that. He immediately demanded 5,000 kwacha from me. I said, no, I'm not doing it. He says, I'm going to take you to court. We went to court. We spent 4 months in court. I didn't hire a lawyer because for me, I felt, why should I hire a lawyer, spend more money when I know I didn't do it? We went to court 4 months. I was found innocent because their testimony, first of all, I didn't do that. And second of all, the testimony was botched. It didn't make any sense. So the judge acquitted me of that case. Now, because I've been through this before, when this guy, the owner of the bus, came and said, I want you to pay for these tires, I knew what this was about. It was just about extortion. It was about them thinking, well, since he did this, let's make him pay for 2 brand new tires. And I said, no, I'm not doing that. He says to me, if you don't do it, I'm going to take you to court. I said, let's go to court. I didn't hire a lawyer. During the court case, the bus driver and the conductor both gave testimonies that that were conflicting. The driver said the tire was punctured on the left side. The conductor said it was punctured on the right side. So in that moment, I thought, I got this case. I'm going to win this. And because I didn't hire a lawyer, when it came time for me to testify, I decided to remain silent. And I remember the judge, the magistrate, looking at me in the courthouse and said, Mr. Mwewa, you are being charged with a misdemeanor that could land you in problems. Are you sure you do not want to testify? Are you sure you don't want to give your side of the story? I said, no, Judge, I'm fine. And I was silent. And so the case went on, and then finally there was the day of judgment. I'm telling you, of course I've learned my lesson now, but I'm telling you, that day when I was leaving my house to go to the courthouse to hear the judgment, and I'll never forget my wife saying to me, are you okay? You going to be okay with this? Is everything going to be fine? I said, honey, don't worry about it. This is cool. It's fine. And she said, okay, good luck. I get to the courthouse. I'm sitting there, and I think there were about 4 cases in total. My case was the last one to be called. And I remember thinking, why is this taking so long? So finally they called my case. I went in the thingy, and the judge, the magistrate, started reading the judgment. Now, remember, I've never been convicted of anything in my life, okay? And I'm sitting there fully confident that the judge is going to see through this. Judge looked at me and said, Mr. Mwewa, I'm going to sentence you to 6 months in prison. I could not believe it. To say that I was floored would be an understatement. I couldn't believe it. I said, 6 months? And I remember, I know this sounds mundane, and I don't mean to sound comical or coy or facetious when I say this, but I remember when the judge said, I'm going to sentence you to 6 months in prison, simple imprisonment. I remember thinking, I've got a meeting at 2 o'clock. I can't be here for 6 months. What are you talking about? And then very quickly it hit me that it was real. Now, because I'd never been through anything like this, it was all foreign to me, and it was like walking through a phase and a fog. I couldn't think straight. And I remember once the judge said that, the police officer walked up to me and said, Mr. Mwewa, the press are outside the courtroom and they want to take pictures of you in handcuffs. But I'm not going to let them do that. I'm going to take you down the tunnel, and there's a tunnel that leads to the other side of the building, to the holding cell, where you will be held until you'll be taken to whichever prison you're going to go to. And so, he was talking, but I wasn't really hearing him. I very quickly text my pastor, Pastor Walker. I text him, and then I text my wife, and I text my mother and my brothers. And the whole time the cop was leading me through the tunnel, it was like a long tunnel, long, dark tunnel. For those of you that have been through that, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And it seemed like an endless tunnel. I mean, I couldn't see the end of it. It was just so long and dark. And I remember as we were walking through the tunnel, I stopped and I looked at the officer and I said, where are we going? And he looked at me and said, Mr. Mwewa, you're going to prison. Where do you think you're going? I laugh now, but it wasn't funny at the time. And so, I went through that, and this is what I find comical about you guys that keep saying, no, the reason the appeal was successful in terms of you not serving the 6 months is because you are aligned with the ruling party. Well, if that were true, why was I convicted? So your theory doesn't make any sense for those of you, because there's some of you that love this. No, it's because you are aligned, it's because you support the current cheat. That's why you are. Well, if that's true, why was I convicted? Can you tell me that? It's fine for you to say the appeal was successful, but it's not fine for you to tell me why I was convicted, if that were true. So my point is, it's got nothing to do with that. There's no politics there, okay, in as far as I'm concerned. And so I remember they first took, when you're first taken to the holding cell, the most intimidating experience I've ever felt, because for the first time I felt vulnerable, completely out of control, no control whatsoever. I was at the mercy of the court system, and I didn't know what to do. I in my mind, I was thinking 6 months meant I wasn't going to see my family for 6 months. 6 months meant I'm going to be in prison for 6 months. And so finally I called a lawyer, J&M Associates. And I must tell you, J&M Associates, thank you so much for everything. There are no words in the human vocabulary that can adequately describe how thankful I am for your tireless, dedicated work in ensuring that I was set free. Thank you, J&M Associates. Love you guys. So, I was in the cell there. They finally took me to, and then there was this debate. You don't know if they're going to take you to Chimbokaila or Kamwala. And there are a couple of guys in there that kept on saying, "No, Mwewa, I convinced the guys to take you to Chimbokaila because at Kamwala there are too many juveniles." And they tell you all these horror stories. But thankfully, I had a few guards that were very kind to me and said, "No, don't worry, Mr. Mwewa. We're going to take you to where you're supposed to be. We'll take good care of you." The only bad experience I had was the Kasalanga. The transportation vehicle that transports prisoners from the magistrate's court to the prison house. That contraption needs to be abolished. Because if you are ailing, if you're sick, if you've got a respiratory breathing problem, you can very easily die in that. And because you're a convict, nobody cares. Nobody's going to care. You could literally die in that Kasalanga. And my appeal to the government and to the authorities is that don't use that thing called the Kasalanga. That thing is a death trap. It's only designed for about 15 people, but more than 30 people are maxed in there. And you can't breathe. You simply cannot breathe. And I went through that, and then I finally went to Mwembeshi. I spent 6 days there. And Mwembeshi is a brand new facility, a beautiful facility. And when I got there were very few prisoners there. I spent 6 days there. The day that I left, lots of PIs, they call them PIs, prohibited immigrants, you know, Ethiopians, Somalis, and flooded that prison. I mean, our prisons are choked with PIs, prohibited immigrants, Somalis, Ethiopians, chocked full. A cell that comfortably seats, S-E-A-T-S, seats about how many people? That was 15, but maybe 20 people. Now has more than 45 people in one dormitory. When I first went to Mwembeshi, each person had a bed, your own bed. It was a bunk bed system. By the time I left, 6 days later, people were sleeping on the floor. You know, so it's just choked and packed full of people. So, you know, I was released on bail pending appeal. I appealed, and through our lawyers, J&M Associates, who did an amazing job. And I went to the courthouse there, the Lusaka High Court, and the judge overturned the sentence and said it was excessive. And he said I pay a fine of about $6,000, which I did. I was given 5 days to pay $6,000. I did. And the only thing I didn't like with the way some people reported this, especially Mwewa Facebook page, you know, because sometimes Mwewa, they embellish. You know, they're not always accurate. Mwewa says, the judge said, Mr. Mwewa, you're too old. The judge never said that. What the judge said was that considering your standing in society, this behavior was unacceptable. That's what he said. He didn't say, no, because you're old. And you guys love this ageism thing, especially after Steve Harvey said what he said. You guys jump on that and you know, but that's not what the judge said. And guys, of course, there are a few Facebook pages that you don't mind if they get it wrong. You know, for example, if one of these little pages gets it wrong, you don't mind. But then when you have a page like Mwebantu that says the wrong thing, not the wrong thing, just untruths, just not true at all. The judge never said that. He didn't say that. Stick to the letter of what the person said. Don't paraphrase, just say what it was. The judge said, considering your standing in society, this behavior was unacceptable. He didn't talk about age, because you guys love talking about that. There's nothing wrong with being on TikTok. There's nothing wrong with being on Facebook. There is nothing wrong with being a Facebook creator. You must understand that. And anyone that tells you that, don't listen to them. Follow your passion. Do what you love. Don't let these haters distract you. Okay, that's what I wanted to share with you guys. Thanks for watching. Bye.